this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not. And it is one of the great adventures of all time.
It's only a question of when. Someday humans will leave the cradle of the Earth and travel to Mars. Not just to leave flags and footprints, but to stay. Those intrepid people will be the first Martian colonists, and like pilgrims on the Mayflower, will leave their homes with no intention of ever returning. They'll risk everything to create a new world, a new future, and new hope for humanity. I believe that the people who will begin this great adventure are alive today. And some of them are from Purdue.
So the purpose of the elliptical spiral is so that the CTV can be in orbit and slowly increase its velocity. The purpose of doing this is that we'll be able to save propellant. By saving propellant, you save mass, and mass saves money. And then the astronauts, so the crew, can be on Earth and still training for about 2 years, and then they can launch and meet up with the spacecraft later, rendezvous, and then they'll have the impulse kick to Mars.
When astronauts live in a microgravity environment for a long period of time, there's potential of muscle loss and bone loss, which is not good for them. And our astronauts are going to be in the spacecraft for over 6 months. Therefore, we create artificial gravity to simulate like the environment on Earth. To create artificial gravity, we're going to spin up our spacecraft. And this is kind of like, say, think about an ice skater skating, extending his arms and starts spinning. When he starts pulling his arms closer to his body, the spacecraft spins faster. And this is kind of on our journey to Mars.
The challenges of landing on Mars are that the atmosphere is very thin, so there's not enough of it there to slow you down effectively with just a capsule for our amount of mass. But there's enough of it there to cause heating problems. Balloon is a device that we use to slow ourselves down when the spacecraft enters the atmosphere. A balloon is part balloon, part parachute, and that's where the name balloon comes from. And how it works is it creates a large surface area when we're entering the atmosphere that increases the amount of drag we feel and slows us down more when we enter the atmosphere.
Crew A's main job is to set up everything for crews 1 through 7. Crew A is really the pioneer mission. Crew 1 through 7 is more of the colonist missions. So Crew A lands, and they basically start setting up everything that Crew 1 through 7 will need. And then after about a year and a half, Crew A launches and returns back to Earth. Then shortly after, Crew 1 lands. And this is the beginning of the colonist missions. About every 2 years, another crew will land and stay there for about 15 years.
Well, lava tubes are really interesting because they are buried under the ground, so they can help shield the colonists who are living on the surface from things like damaging UV radiation, ultraviolet radiation, X-rays from solar flares, a lot of the things that we're protected on Earth because Earth has a magnetic field and an ozone layer, a thick atmosphere that Mars doesn't have. So lava tubes are natural places for protection, natural shelters that are already built on the surface. At least the lava tubes we know on Earth, the way you actually access them, the way you get inside them, is to go through places where the part of the tube is collapsed, the ceiling is caved in. When you have a cave-in, there's lots of loose boulders and pieces of rock and things like that. So they can sometimes be difficult to access, but I think the challenge is worth it because they really are sort of natural places to set up a colony.
We had a 100-ton habitation module inside a lava tube. One of the ideas we had was to use the rappel concept, in which we used a winch combined with a tether to rappel the hab down the cave. And once it's reached the bottom, the terrain is quite hostile, so it uses the landing legs and the wheels to negotiate through that terrain and finally reach the bottom, after which the rovers can guide the habitation module to its final destination in the lava tube.
We've focused our mission a lot on how comfortable our astronauts will be living in space. They will all have their own bedrooms with their own beds and desks. They'll have a kitchen, they'll have a workout room, they'll have a medical cabinet, and they'll even have a hydroponic space, so they'll have some plants that they'll take care of in the habitat as well as outside the habitat in a greenhouse. One of the greatest resources that we have on Mars is ice that's available to us. We're able to make water from that ice so they could drink, take baths, and we can also make oxygen. Living on a new planet can be scary and unknown, so our goal is to make our colony as comfortable as possible. I imagine them able to cook dinner in an oven, read a book in bed, garden their own food, and even take the rovers out for a spin. All the daily activities they used to do on Earth, they can now do on Mars. And now they will realize that Mars is their new home.